Well, good day, everyone. Welcome to this TDF user group sponsored webinar, Invest More in TDF or Do a Health Check to Inspire a CRM Strategy. My name is Marcy Palmer, the user group administrator, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Thank you for joining us today. Before I introduce our webinar and the presenter, you should know that this session is planned for a total of 60 minutes, including time at the end for your questions. You can submit your questions at any time throughout the presentation by using the chat area of your Zoom window. And you should also know that this webinar is being recorded for future reference. So over the past 12 to 18 months, we have heard from our members of the challenges during the transition of the new ownership at TDF. Naturally, with an acquisition, the company has changed. During the transition, the people have changed, the direction and the support has changed. Your business continuity during the transition is of utmost importance to your operational sustainability and your sales growth. So especially during these very unique times. Many of you are or have been approaching a crossroads. The fork in the road includes two options. The first, invest in TDF, finding new ways to invest, to utilize and manage the product to your business benefit, with or without the support of TDF. The second option, to conduct a health check on the CRM as a whole and determine if another product would be in the company's best interest. Our goal with this webinar is to connect you to the information and the resources to support a well-informed and strategic decision that will support your continuity and growth. In an effort to better assist you with evaluating these options, we have partnered with Michael Thaw, who is the VP of Selection Services at TEC, which stands for Tech Evaluation Centers. They're a leading impartial software advisory firm, and we're bringing you this webinar to ask him to share some top considerations for a current CRM health check and a software selection process. So Michael is joined today by the Senior Project Manager, Valentine Baranek. So Michael and Valentine, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Marcy. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to our webinar, Invest More in TDF or Do a Health Check. And the idea is that we want you to be able to always make an informed decision. So I'd just like to spend a second and talk to you a little bit about what's the defined objectives of today's webinar and the discussion are to support you in your decision process. And that's to help you identify a strategy for the next steps in your CRM, which focuses on centralizing data that you would use in the customer relationship management. Allow it to be a platform where you can grow sales, develop customer retention and loyalty, and provide the foundation for a health check for your current CRM. So that includes one of the challenges that you have today, which is in, understanding how the CRM solution and the data that comes from it can integrate with the other solutions that you're using as part of running your business. Now, we are recording the session, as Marcy said, so you'll be able to get a copy right after. So the agenda is really about focusing on a best practice approach for a health check for your CRM. And we understand that there are a breadth of users that are out there right now that are using Tour de Force. Some are using some of the capabilities, some are using all of the capabilities, and you're on various versions of it as well. I'd like to give you just a little bit of a flavor for who Technology Evaluation Centers is. So we're a global consulting and advisory company, and we have helped more than 600 clients in our very recent past couple of years with their evaluation and selection projects. And we are entirely independent and impartial. So we're 120 employees and we're half employee owned. And we are uniquely focused on software evaluation and software selection as a way of adopting the new technology to reach your operational objectives. And so that allowed us to really store and leverage our experiences with our clients and bring them to you. as you can see, we've worked with a lot of different types of companies, distribution and manufacturing companies, services companies across a large breadth. And this is only just a snapshot of some of those companies, names that you would recognize. Our major objective in working with our clients is really help reduce the due diligence time that it takes to work through your consideration. And we cut that by about 50% of the internal time it would take you to do on your own, and the internal cost by 50%. And in addition to that, we bring tremendous savings to what the solutions that the clients end up buying and how much they end up paying for it by more than 25%. And most importantly, we help reduce the risks of not choosing the right solution or not getting it up and running. And definitely, identifying what some of those obstacles along the way. So a moment ago, I was telling you we stored and leveraged our experiences with our clients, and that allowed us to create 4 centers of excellence, which will play into the health check that you're looking at. So first and foremost is the technology that we've created, which manifests or shows you what's going on as you go through your health check or your evaluation and selection. And this acts as a platform or a way for you to be able to make your decision. We've accumulated databases of product and vendor information, which is part of our research. And we have a proven approach for health check, for evaluation and selection, which takes a look at the objective and the subjective factors in a very efficient but thorough way. And first and foremost is our experience. And this is our leading competency. Valentin is part of the project delivery team, and his team consists of consultants, advisors, analysts, as well as vendor relation colleagues that assist him as he delivers projects and works with our clients to reach their objectives. So I was telling you that we have this research that we've accumulated. And think of this as databases of best practice listing of requirements around the major enterprise applications. So with regard to CRM, we have all of the best practice listing of requirements that you would want to define. And they represent not only the tier 1, tier 2, and most of the tier 3 solutions, but they also have requirements of specific clients that we've worked with on their CRM projects. And so we also have those requirements for the other supporting applications that could be part of or that are associated with CRM, like BI and ERP and human relationship or human capital management. Now we also have the vendor's level of support from almost 1,500 different vendors for these best practice requirements. And what we do is we put together the right list of requirements that would reflect the scope of our clients' projects. I'm going to hand the presentation over to Valentin in a few minutes, and he's going to walk you through what it would be like, what you would see as you work through your health checks for your CRM solution. And so he'll be leveraging Tech Advisor, that's our technology and decision support system. First and foremost, we see that organizations, that companies like yours that are working through their considerations about what to do, they have these types of challenges. And they affect not only the cost of the purchases, but your operations. So I just want to spend a second identifying those challenges. First and foremost is, how do you separate sales and marketing information from real fact? And that's not only about features and functions, it's also about integration and compatibility, and about service and support, those aspects. Now, most organizations don't have enough resources, so it's a matter of how do you engage the right resources while they're busy running the business. So obviously it's important to reach into the user community and the stakeholders, but rest assured their time is very important to run your business. And we see project challenges of scopes that aren't clear and plans that aren't fully detailed, and not a good strategy for doing complete requirement gathering. So our approach is really about starting with a clear plan and scope and requirements, and engaging your people to be able to effectively compare the different solutions fact-based so that you can work through a proper consideration. And fundamental to this is the consensus building and including your people at the appropriate steps of the requirement gathering and the analysis. And we really see that, you know, there are probably more than one solution that is viable for your specific company. But it's really the user adoption that will make the key difference between making it successful and helping you reach your objectives. And so that's why this consensus building and change management has to fundamentally be built into any consideration that you do. So today, I want to focus on a best practice approach for what a health check is. Let's take a look and see what those different components are. It starts with the requirement gathering and identifying what your scope is. And I'm going to spend a few moments just after I go through the list, working and detailing each one of these different topics. But these requirements are broken down into 3 different categories. Functional, how you're going to use. Technical, what's the IT environment and the integration. And vendor viability, like is the vendor a good fit for your corporate culture, for your level of support, and for your future vision, and knowing that they could support you going into the future. What about the current systems that you're using right now, and how you want the information to integrate between the different applications that you're using, and supporting you in terms of making that data available and visible in a non-manual way. And then being able to compare your current solution against your requirements. Now, 3, 4, and 5 are interchangeable and can be done separately or all together. So whether you compare your requirements against Tour de Force or Tour de Force and other solutions at the same time, that'll help you identify what the gaps are and be able to assess budgetary pricing as a consideration about what are the proposed next steps that would make sense in terms of either investing more in Tour de Force, staying with it for the short term, or completely migrating to another solution. So this is an approach that builds the foundation for you to be able to make an effective decision, fact-based, understanding what you're getting and you're not getting, that includes all of the right elements. Now, our services range from planning through research, evaluation, and selection, contract review, and price negotiation, right through to assisting our clients during the implementation. So we're not implementers, but we act as your advocates to ensure that what you purchased is set up properly, on time, and on budget. So let's talk about a best practice approach and how this would play out as you go through your health check. It really starts with a project plan. And that project plan is, understanding the objectives, identifying the key decision factors, the timeline, and the different milestones that you want to reach, and then build in the activities. We share the project plan with our clients, and they understand what their responsibility is and what the resource requirement is at each stage. But there's definitely a plan to be able to get from the beginning to the objective. And our job is to lead, guide, and manage this health check and evaluation from beginning to end. So a moment ago, I was telling you that we have a proven approach for health check. Let me just spend a second talking a little bit about that. It's about helping you build an analytical evaluation. So the idea is that we want to build a decision model in a very structured way using a research, evaluate, and select approach around your requirements. And so these requirements, as I said earlier, are based on 3 categories: functional, how you're going to use; technical, what's the IT environment; and vendor viability or market data. So what happens is we would interact with your different teams in meetings or workshops and be able to identify their current and future needs. And that comes from process discussions. What are you doing now? what do you need to be doing, what's being done in systems, what's being done manually. And when I talk about technical requirements, I'm not only talking about the databases that it has to support or whether you want it in the cloud or on-premise. I'm also talking about integration with other solutions. So identifying these requirements that would support the processes that you use and the priorities, what's critical and what's not, will give you the foundation to start comparing what you need against what different solutions have to offer. So of course, we want to start with tour de force. You're currently using it, and we want to be able to understand how the full extent of your needs is being supported or not supporting in black and white from tour de force and from other possible solutions. So you can see words here on the screen like supported, not supported, customization. That's the level of detail that we would do this comparison. And this is information that's presented from the vendors and is validated by them, so it becomes fact in the consideration. And we take this level of support for the requirements, we translate it into quantitative values in our technology, in Tech Advisor, and that's supported by reports and graphs. So the idea is that we want to rank the different solutions in terms of how they support these requirements. And you see here where it says, show disqualified critical criteria, we want to flag the gaps, what can't be supported and why. And so this will help reduce the list of the solutions that you're looking at. So you want to, in the beginning, look at the comprehensive list of viable CRM solutions, but you want to end up with a shorter list of the best possible solutions that would meet your needs to the greatest extent. And this is the approach that you would take to do that. So it works through the process of elimination. So you don't start off by choosing the solutions you want, you end up choosing them. And that way you haven't missed something that's very important. Now there's a couple of other key activities. The vendor viability, looking to make sure that they have the right support, that they can support you according to the key parameters of your business, and that there's a good corporate culture fit are really key in terms of being able to help narrow that list down. And also maybe budgetary pricing. You might want to do some web demos with the working list, the best 4 or 5, to end up with the right 2 or 3 solutions that you would end up as part of your consideration. But this is the approach that you would take in terms of deciding on that fundamental health check, which is invest more in TDF, use it for the short term as a gap, or completely migrate to another solution. Now, if you decide to migrate to another solution or re-implement tour de force, you want to go through this select phase. And that would help you get a deeper understanding of the short list of vendors to see which is really the best approach for you and which is the best fit solution. And so these decision factors that are in your selection phase are only performed with the short list of vendors. So demonstrations allows you to be able to create a demonstration script that's based on the key use cases that you have. And each vendor comes in with their product and they present specific to the demonstration script. So you can compare one vendor solution against the next presentation. And we develop scorecards for the different users that would sit in on that part of the presentation, and they take an active role, if you can imagine. So they would score not only ease of use, they would score process fit and a number of different elements to make sure that they could capture how viable the solution would be in terms of you actually using that solution in your business. So we do the same thing with market data, which helps us understand how is the solution implemented. Does the company implement themselves? Do they have a third party? What's their experience and their strategy? Now the idea here is we want you to ultimately, if you're going through a selection, choose the right product, vendor, and implementation partner so that there's no disconnect in the messaging and you understand the total cost of ownership. So there's a number of other decision factors, process fit, ease of use, references, that are assessed with their weighting to the overall decision. that gives you those comprehensive scores and exceptions, and then build in pricing to be able to come up with the final selection and a negotiation strategy that you want to use in this nice, healthy, competitive environment. So that's kind of the larger perspective in terms of what a health check is and how it could help you as far as the consideration to reach your ultimate CRM objective. So I just want to spend a brief moment talking about how the requirements and the processes are captured. It's really the interaction with your different teams. We call them functional business groups. And these interactions are concise, but allow us to capture the right amount of detail. So they're typically between an hour and 2 hours long, and they're discussions that we would lead that help us understand what processes they're performing, what requirements they would need, and how they're doing it. And as part of how they're doing it, we really want to understand what they're doing today, what's being performed as part of the Tour de Force solution that you're currently using, as part of other add-on software, and what's being done manually. And by being able to map this, we can really see, get an idea about which processes are being performed in which software, where the duplication is, where the gaps and the challenges are, and it really centralizes the focus from your company to understand what your current situation really is. And that allows us to be able to identify, in an ideal world, what the best CRM solution would look like and how it could integrate with the rest of the business applications that you're currently using in an automated way. So we see here that customer service was being performed under a number of different solutions, but it's centralized under CRM now. So there's many different reasons why you want to undergo a health check, in addition to the obvious that you're currently having some challenges with Tour de Force, but it really gives you a better understanding of your business processes. And it definitely helps you identify potential risks and gaps that exist. Helps you eliminate the data duplication and redundant or obsolete applications that you're using, optimize the performance and the scalability of the solutions that you're using, ensures that your architecture can handle your current and planned business processes, and it limits the manual processes of data management. So the idea with the data management is that the data has to be visible so that you can use it to understand what's going on in your business, to be able to plan more effectively, and to be able to react more effectively. And to validate and normalize your current operational processes. And of course, leverage the latest technology. So I would like to now pass the presentation over to my colleague, Valentine, who will be able to show you in Tech Advisor how a health check happens using the functional, technical, and market data components.
Thank you, Michael. Just give me a second here to start the screen sharing. Do you see the screen with the project map? All right. Okay. So what I wanted to show you a little bit today is how we are going to use our decision support system, the Tech Advisor, to understand, to do this health check and to understand, different gaps that you may be having in your current, installation. How can we understand, for example, what systems are available out there, what they can provide compared with what you're currently having. And of course, if we want to also understand, what's going to be the price for changing those. So the decision support system that we're using in basically every project, the Tech Advisor, has a few tabs here on the top. The first one, select vendors, will give you access to the list of the vendors, the CRMs available out there. Now, of course, this is a demo, selection model, so you won't see real names. You'll see I have, product ABC, but you can imagine here having, the CRM systems listed. And here on the right side, you'll be able to see information about the product, about the vendor, and so on. We can also, of course, add like an average solution, and then you can compare what you're currently having against an, market average in different areas. And also, of course, tour de force capabilities, either the, the latest and greatest, or as you have it implemented, currently. So the next tab, prioritize needs, will give us access to the selection model. This selection model is going to be structured based on the project scope and based on, each particular requirement set. So, of course, product functionality and product technology will be the first two components that we're going to evaluate and we're going to define. And based on the discussions that we're going to have together, we're going to put together this structure, which, for example, in the product functionality will have like, customer service and support, marketing automation, Salesforce automation, and so on. Reporting, architecture, platforms, interfaces, and things like that will be included under, product technology. Like, for example, I have it here. Under platforms, I have database server, workstation, I can have mobile capabilities, web browser, and so on. So the idea is to, include in this selection model all the current and future requirements based on, our discussions. Now, those requirements will also be prioritized. And I can, set a priority from a no need, not important, nice to have, to a must have or critical. And by changing these priorities, the percentages that I'm allocating to each of those modules and sub-modules will change accordingly. Now, like you see here, this is a hierarchical structure, so I can, set priorities for each of those components. I can drill down even more and so on, right? So I can, drill down to the actual functionality that is available out there. Now, some of these things will be critical, some of these things will be maybe only nice to have, and so on. And you can see here the percentages, the related importance changing. So once I have the product technology and the product functionality defined, I can also, add some information about the implementation partner. A lot of times, the vendors, they're not maybe doing the implementation direct, or I want to check to see if the current implementation that you're having is the right one, if they're offering you the right level of support services, training services, and so on. What's the product strategy that they're using? What's their, customer base that they have? Do they have experience, and so on? So what's their financial profile, corporate profile? Is that a match with your company? So, all of these components can be added in the selection model and can be, of course, evaluated. Now, because we already know the level of support for each of those systems, like Michael said, showed you supported out of the box and customization and so on. Those are the actual levels of support that the systems can have for, each functionality item. So it can be either supported through a modification or a third-party support, maybe it's a customization, maybe it's a future release. So based on their level of support, they will get a certain amount of points that you see here on the right, and these points will get combined with your priorities, which are weights, and will allow us to calculate a weighted average. So if I'm looking at, for example, product technology, I see that product C is the rank number 1, followed by product B, and so on. I can select, for example, the reporting capabilities, and then I will be able to see the ranking and the scores of the solutions only based on that reporting. I can do all kinds of analysis. I can, you know, look at the disqualified critical criteria, functionality or technology items that are critical, mandatory, and are not supported out of the box. So I can, you know, take a look and see where are, you know, some of these gaps. And there's a lot of graphs and reports that are all dynamic and based on your selection and based on your requirements and based on your priorities, of course, will change accordingly. So product differences allows me to baseline a product, which can be like an average solution, can be, you know, a tour de force, can be, you know, I don't know, one of the solutions available out there as a baseline, as a zero line, and I can compare all of the others against my baseline, see where are the gaps in the different modules. And then, of course, you know, I can drill down. So all of these components will be evaluated at the beginning, and if the decision is, you know, there's too many gaps, there's a lot of systems available out there, you know, which can provide much more functionality and so on. If, you know, a selection is the next step, then we're going to invite the vendors, some of these vendors, of course, to demonstrate their solution, so you can see exactly based on a demonstration script how they are, you know, performing, how easy. Yes.
I think they just go ahead, Valentin.
Okay, so things like, you know, not only can they do a certain functionality, but also how easy it is to use that system. Things like process fit or degree of process improvement can also be scored and compared. So all of these components can be evaluated together with, of course, a price. Now, you know, of course, these are not the real prices of the CRM systems necessarily, but, you know, I have a certain price for the product A, I have a certain price for product B and product C, and then I can analyze and see what's the value equivalency of each product in terms of how much I should pay for each of those products. You know, maybe one product is giving me more functionality, but they're asking me, you know, a lot more money. So how much I should pay for that extra that I'm getting. And there's, of course, a lot of reports that are available that can be saved. You know, all the graphs, all the reports can be saved. The reports can be saved in Excel, for example, and can be used either in a business case or, you know, in an executive presentation and so on. The idea is that, you know, the decision support system is, you know, a dynamic way of analyzing what you're currently having, where are the gaps, what's available out there, and how much is, you know, is going to cost an upgrade, for example. Michael?
You want to make me the host, Val?
Yep. Click on share.
How do I do that? Bear with me for a second. Excuse me, everybody. There we go. Now I'm the host, and I can share. How's that? So I have just a few more slides that I'd like to share. Yes?
We're not seeing your screen yet.
How is that? Are you seeing it now?
No, we are not.
Okay, let me try this all over again. Bear with me for a second.
Here we go.
It's working now.
Excellent. Great. So can you see advisory services, Val?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. So I have just a couple more screens to share with you, and then I want to open the floor up for discussion, please. So the idea is that to be able to support you with the Heatlhcheck, we have a number of different services to be able to help you based on the scope of your work. And the range of services helps you reach the defined objective, whether that is the key decision gate about investing more in tour de force or about migrating to other solutions. The range of services can definitely help you support that. And I have a nice offer for the members of this user group if you'd like to be able to avail yourself of our services. If not, then I'm more than happy to share the best practice approach which we'll have with you. Now, as part of the best practice approach, a lot of organizations for any type of substantial investment like to be able to do a return on investment. And the value of the return of investment is not only knowing when you're going to get a return on the money that you're investing, but also being able to identify the benefits that you want from the system that you're looking for. And based on those benefits, be able to measure that ROI. And so there's a very high value in being able to do that. It's not necessary in all organizations, but for those organizations that want it, it's definitely available, and a very important aspect. It helps you when you want to set up the solution to make sure that you can reach all the objectives that you define. And if you're looking to migrate to a new solution, you know, just because you're evaluating the different aspects and parameters of that system doesn't mean that that's actually going to translate through to the contract and the price that you want. And so that's a key service that we have, is the actual contract review and price negotiation, which really is designed to make sure that you buy the right components, that you don't overpay, and that you're protected in the contract. So just to wrap up, you know, this Heatlhcheck, the best practice approach that we are presenting and that we use with clients like you in their Heatlhcheck is really based on establishing what your current and future requirements are, and they're based on the functional, technical, and vendor viability perspective, and then help you understand what you're currently doing now and how you're doing it, how the data is integrated between the different solutions, and then to be able to compare your different solutions, your current solution, and other possible solutions, to be able to understand where the gaps are and the costs, to be able to help you with the key decision about investing more in the current solution that you have, or to be able to migrate to another solution to reach your objectives, or to be able to make it more cost affordable. So that is the presentation that we have today. We're leveraging all of our experience to be able to come up with this. I would like to open the floor to any questions that you have at this point.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Valentine. At this time, we will present Michael and Valentine with your questions. We will be using the chat area to present your questions. So if you use the chat area to go ahead and indicate your questions, and we'll get those over to Michael and Valentine and have them answer those questions for you. One question that's come in is, and they joined the presentation late, and I don't think you mentioned this earlier on, Michael. The question is, where are you located? And do you just offer software, or is it services, or both?
No, this is all about services to evaluate different software solutions. And the idea is that, you know, based on our experience, we show you what's going on in the tech advisor system, the technology, but this is all about services. And we're located in Montreal, Canada. Our prime footprint is North America, so about 80% of our business comes from United States and Canada, and the rest of our business comes from Latin America, Europe, and the Gulf region.
Great. Next question is, there are a million CRMs out there. What are a couple of your favorites and why?
What we see is that, if you look at a Gartner Magic Quadrant and you look at some other analysis, you always see different solutions in that top quadrant. And that's very general information, and it's really about practically applying it. Now, I can tell you that a leading solution is Salesforce, but that might be too expensive and it might be too much for your organization. So it's really a matter of identifying what you mean by a CRM solution, what you're going to need, and making sure that it's usable and helps you achieve what you need to do. So there's a lot of top tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 solutions. Solutions like Sugar CRM and Microsoft CRM, Zoho. There's lots of good solutions on the marketplace. So we want to be able to, through the process of elimination, help identify the right ones for you.
Yeah, I know the Magic Quadrant does, Gardner does do a nice write-up on some of the top CRMs, so that might be a good place to go. I know I have access to that report. If that's something of interest, I'd be happy to share just some of those.
Yeah, I would just caution against that because we believe that it's practically applying the information. So, the Magic Quadrant, what you should get out of that is to know that these are some of the solutions that you should include in consideration. But that is not the end-all and be-all list.
Great. Next question is, how long would it take to implement this solution program?
So in order to be able to work through a health check effectively and be able to get to that important decision gate, which is, should I invest more in my tour de force or should I look at investing in another solution, it's typically between 1 and 2 months. And that really amounts on the difference in that timing is really in terms of how available are you to be able to work on the different components. So, are you able to schedule your people for discussion and requirement gathering? And are you available to be able to analyze the information from the different vendors? So it's typically between 1 and 2 months.
Great, thanks, Michael. Our biggest challenge with TDF right now is support. What criteria is used to evaluate the vendor's support, and who are the ratings done by? So
what we would do in helping our clients identify the support, I can share my screen. I'm a visual person, so let me show you what that means in terms of support. Bear with me for a second while I do this. So I'm going to pull up a model and show you what we mean by the support. Bear with me for a second. So this is the consideration that we would have in support. Can you see where it says demo selection model?
We cannot.
No, share the...
Sorry. There we go. How's that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Let
me try and reshare.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Not quite there yet.
Okay.
You have to stop sharing here.
Okay. Okay. So I can answer your question without sharing the screen. So the idea is that for support services, there's a number of different considerations. So we want to know, and we have a starting list of what we have helped evaluate different vendors and products with for support, including rating for ongoing support, what's offered in the standard support, what type of certifications do they have, and some other components like is this available only through tour de force or through partners? What about your service level agreements? So there's lots of different aspects that we have in terms of starting lists for defining level of support from the vendors. But we'll also want to do a further investigation about what your needs are. Look, do you need support beyond regular business hours? Do you need support in the evening and on weekends? So we'll be able to help define that as part of that list, but we definitely have a comprehensive starting list of support questions that we would want to evaluate the vendors on, and based on peer experience and based on the vendor's response, we're able to have you score and us score the different vendors based on that level of support.
Great, thanks, Michael. And I think you maybe just answered this question somewhat. Just the comment was some of the criteria seem pretty subjective, and just asking if that was the point, though, which I think you were indicating that it was definitely that you can drill down and create these, by company, so the criteria for the company can be added to the health check and can be rated for the company. Correct.
So there's always objective and subjective criteria, and it's important to consider which is which. So at the beginning, the functional requirements, the technical requirements, some of that market data, that's objective, that's fact-based, and some of the subjective criteria, more feeling-based, which unfortunately some of the support is going to fall into those subjective criteria. And I can tell you that based on other user experience, other user groups like yourself, you can start to get some more comprehensive perspectives to move some of that subjective criteria a little closer to the objective column.
Great, thank you. Next question is, and this person joined the call a little bit later. I don't think you shared this information, but the question is, what are the cost ranges for these services?
So it all depends on the scope, and I think the operational word is range. And so I would say it starts at about $5,000, and depending on how far you want to get into this process. So if you want to go just to the decision gate, it can go from 5 to 10 to 20,000, depending on how big the organization is and how broad your use of CRM is. And if you want to go right through to selection, it might double.
Great, thank you. Let's see, we have a question asking about the recording. We will make sure, they were having technical issues, so we'll make sure that the recording does get out to everyone who's participating, so you can have access to this session at a later time, whether it's for your re-review or to share with other colleagues inside your company.
So I have an offer that I wanted to include in the presentation. I'm sorry I omitted it, and that is that for any of the Tour de Force user group members, that we would offer 2 hours of free consulting and access to our system in order to be able to help you with your research. And if you would send me some contact and your email, I would be more than happy to set that up. So I'll give that to you in writing after, Marcy, and you can share that along with the video to the members that registered.
That'd be awesome. Thanks, Michael. And other question here is, can MITS offer some of the solutions offered by tech, i.e. product evaluation, data forecasting, and gap analysis?
I'm not sure what MITS is.
Yeah, MITS is the BI tool that is part of the TDF family, and I do not know that question. Yeah, no, not that I know of. A BI tool is very much around business intelligence. This is software technology evaluation. So
actually, let me help you with that.
Okay.
Part of the requirements help define what you're looking for in terms of the BI, the dashboards, the analytics, the KPIs that you're looking for. And that should be considered as part of it. Now, MITS is an add-on software to to Tour de Force. Is that what that is?
It's recently been integrated.
Yeah. And so as part of this scope that we're talking about, those functional requirements should be defined in terms of the analytics and the dashboards, the reporting that you're looking for from the solution, and you can evaluate other solutions in terms of their capabilities. And what you're going to see is some are going to have add-on partners that will integrate well, some will have it as part of their core solution, and some will require other solutions to be able to work along with it, like MITS works with Tour de Force.
Awesome, thanks. Hopefully that answered your question. If there's further questions in regards to that, we can certainly, you can reach out to us and we can put you in contact with Michael, or we can help find the answers for you. Let's see here. I'm just trying to comb through the questions here, make sure we got to everyone's questions. If you did have a question and you still wanted to go ahead and ask, feel free to go ahead and do that. While I make sure we have, looks like we have answered all the questions that have come in so far. And one more last check here. Last last chance to ask. Certainly we will make, Michael offered himself and he is available to answer any questions. You'll see his contact information on the screen. So feel free to reach out to him at any time. And of course, we're always available here at info@tdfug.com to help connect you with resources that will be support of your continuation of the successful use of CRM, whether it is with TDF as your partner or with other, with other CRM partners and putting you in touch with the right resources. So Michael, Valentine, thank you very much for joining us today. We're really appreciative of your time today, and thank you to our attendees for joining us, your questions and being engaged. We appreciate you all being here, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody, and look forward to
thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.